It's strange to say, but I never listened to this sonata played by anyone else. So I think the only reasons I'm listening is if I want to clarify for myself after I already created the whole piece in my mind, and there are parts that I'm not sure about, like timing, pedal. I'm just focusing on the pedal. I don't hear anything. I'm just focusing on the pedal. Or I'm just focusing on the timing. So I would just play for a few bars and I stop recording and then I was like, okay, what is the timing? How does it heartbeat feels like? Is it calm? Is it calm with movement? It's just that. With that very narrow active focus. And maybe also sometimes I'm just lacking visions. I just can't figure out what this music is about. I would just listen to someone, exactly that part, and while listening, I can just move my body, like do some just again, not to focus in the details what he's doing in terms of rubato or sound or whatever, but in terms of what does this music make me, how does this music make me feel, just to discover those visions through listening to it of someone else. So the active listening is important, but just the passive listening and subconscious downloading of all those, sometimes arrows as well, and tension and maybe interpretation that maybe you wouldn't have chosen if you wouldn't have listened in the first place. It's sort of like a conditioning yourself,
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. Now that I have mastered the piece and it's so solid in my sensations, I would go and listen to someone, but only from the perspective I know every detail of this piece and I'm curious. What are you doing there? I know where I'm standing, but I'm curious what else can be done. Again, from that perspective, it's all right. You're not becoming the victim. You're not becoming the slave.
You are not automatically being convinced by this, I think. Because you already have your view, so it's just another person doing that. So it has this difference. So you only can actually do that because you have just do a lot of work before.
This is another thing why I'm not listening, because if I'm listening a performer who is not perfectly free in his technique, then unfortunately what also getting recorded in our subconscious is his tension. Especially in the virtuoso part. For example, I don't listen, I would never listen the end of the third movement because it is very hard. And I can only imagine how pianists would get super tense, how pianists would start playing rush, how the tension building up here, how they're missing the note, how in jumps you can clearly just see in the face the fear of paranoia, I'm gonna miss the notes. I can already imagine how it would look like. And if I see it at least once, my body would just taking it right away. And every time I play that piece, in my mind, I would play the recording of that person with his tension playing that part. And it's so hard to get rid of it. That's the danger. And you know how many people play that coda in the fourth ballet or coda in the first ballet? Just hysterical, just full of tension, just all tension here, missing the notes, harsh tone. I can never erase it from my mind. I have to substitute it with the sound texture, sound movement in my mind, with the correct energy, with arm weight. And you can imagine the resistance, the density of this resistance that been uploaded to my mind by watching all those people. I love listening classical music. I love, but not the one that I'm about to play and not the one that I'm playing. Never. Anything else. Especially I love listening to chamber music, orchestra music. It's so beautiful. But if I know that I'm planning to play this piece, I will never listen to anyone.
I'm starting to realize that because when I listen to someone else, like I can hear the tension,
Uh-huh.
and I'm starting to like you said, to hear much more orchestral music and chamber music, because piano music is becoming like I always have afraid of listen to someone that is very tense, and I starting to think about that way to receive their energy.
I had one student who loved listening to, even though I told him so many times, don't do that. He still did. And then there was always this lesson, and he said again, so I was listening to this pianist playing this, and he was playing it in this tempo, and he was making this rubato here, and making that piano and forte here. And when I'm trying to do it, just doesn't come out the same. And I always say, what you hear could be complete opposite to his intention. Like you think he's doing this rubato because of this and that, and you just imitate the result, but you don't know the reason behind it. And if you just imitate the result, you might end up not having the same result at all. You can only assume what he thinks, what he feels, but ultimately you experience it from your perspective. It's, of course, the tension we can recognize, it can resonate, of course, but if we're talking about, let's say we're listening to Horowitz, right, playing on Safranitsky, yeah, or Ivo Pagarevich, we can only recognize things that resonate with us from our perspective, and we think within the limit of our understanding and knowledge and skills that this is what he's doing. But maybe we're missing 99% of what he's actually doing.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what he's actually doing and you try to imitate, you will reach the plateau so easy. It's empty. It's the empty thing to do. And actually not empty. It can also damage your playing because it will be in the way, again, in resistance to what actually you might want to do.
Yeah.
I'm also afraid that if I hear it, the interpretation is gonna stuck in my mind. And it's like relearning the piece, what we were talking about. Remember I said, even if you play a piece 5 years ago, you start with a new imagination and stuff, and you still remember the memory, the muscle memory, the sensations, and it's in resistance. So I feel if I hear the music enough, if I remember it in certain tempos and certain dynamics, that will interfere and be in resistance to what I really want to say. And I never encourage, I only tell my students to only listen for certain reasons. If you're not sure about pedal by yourself, if you're not sure about tempo. But first, you try to make the pedal. First, you figure out the tempo. And with Rachmaninoff, if I need to listen, I listen only Rachmaninoff himself playing. If I need, let's say, tempo or anything, if I can't find Rachmaninoff, then I find the second best to Rachmaninoff.